Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications.
Well, it is 6/25/20, and we're just a few days to playing the back nine of 2020. On our way to 2021, baby. And if you're like, I'm sure, a lot of people in Washington, D.C., you cannot wait for 2020 to end. It reminds me of a Maitreya experience that didn't happen to me. Actually, it happened to Benjamincreme's daughter one time, years and years ago. She wrote it up and it got published in the International magazine. But apparently she was going through a rough patch in her life at this time. And she just happened to be walking through Hyde Park, which is a pretty popular big park in London. And this elderly gentleman came up to her and started walking beside her. And I even asked her, he goes, "Do you mind if I walk with you for a while?" And she said, "Sure, no problem." And within that few minutes that he spoke to her about her problem, he was speaking directly to her about her problems. He was giving her this quite profound ageless wisdom teaching. And so where even somebody like me who's kind of eavesdropping on the conversation through, reading it in Share International, I really took a lot out of it too, right? So I'll share it with you, right? So anyway, so he told her, he goes, everything in life is energy, without exception. There isn't anything in life that isn't energy. Now, that energy has its opposites. So just because you're having a bad time this year, because he knew what was going on in her life, who's to say that next year won't be the best part of your life, best time of your life, right? And he even said, take dating. He goes, you're dating this person and you're so infatuated and in love with them, and you think they're just the best thing in the world, and then you wake up one day and you realize they're not so great, fine, or wonderful. He goes, that's that energy, that's that opposites. Now, to take it a little further, right? Well, just because you're having a great year this year, don't expect it to last forever. You're going to go through rough times, right? It's tough times, right? Not seeing that you have to, be a glass is half empty kind of person. You can still view life very optimistically, but you have to be realistic and detached. You have to say, okay, well, just because I'm having a great time this year and things are going well, I'm going to have to deal with things in my life, right? But you can kind of enjoy what you're going through now, right? But anyway, so he talked about some other things with her, but he said, nobody knows what's right around the bend. And he goes, that's why suicide is such a bad option, because it's not the mortal sin. The ageless wisdom teachings teach that, suicide's not a good idea, right? But it's not the mortal sin that the Catholics have been putting out there for years, right? Where if you kill yourself, you go straight to hell. But it does keep the soul from learning what it needs to learn now. And then if a person, when they commit suicide, their soul has to wait until they incarnate again. They have to go through it again. And so it puts off what you could do today. And there's no struggle, there's no thing that we're dealing with in our life that might be tough that we don't have all the resources, all the mental capability, all the wherewithal to handle and overcome. It's a law, it's a universal law. And so even globally as a people, right, all the crises that are going on right now, and believe me, we got a bunch, right? Don't you know, right? We have everything within our hands and our power to overcome it and to fix it, because we created the problem, right? But there isn't, so there isn't a problem that's insurmountable. It might seem like it at the time, but it isn't. So just wanted to kind of share that with you. Now, I do have some things I want to cover in this video, a couple comments and so forth. And if you have a question about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, you can always post that question as a comment, or you can email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. And when you put your question up there, I really look to answering that question in the next video. So you can listen to the next video and listen to what I have to say about it and either agree with me or not. Some people Anyway, hopefully that helps. All right. First question. Actually, my good friend Tao Zenchi from the Netherlands puts up a lot of comments, and I got to kind of stitch them together to kind of make a question out of it, I guess. Now, the one thing that he asked, didn't really ask, he was kind of making more of a comment, I think, but he kind of asked it as a question about the lion and the deer, right? Well, the lion's always going to eat the deer. Now, the reason why I think he's asking this is because of the fact that I talk about peace and justice and unity and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's the animal kingdom, Tao. The predator's always going to eat the prey in the animal kingdom. That's the sacrifice that the prey does for the other animal, right? And so it creates that balance in the animal kingdom. Now, we're not animals. You know, we owe our bodies to the animal kingdom, but we're not animals. We're souls in incarnation. Now, on that being said, we're not identifying with that soul, right, Tal? I mean, anybody can see that. We're not living in a perfect world, right? But deep within the core of everyone's heart sits that soul. And if we could see that soul and communicate with that person's soul, no matter how violent a person they are, they could be sitting on death row for multiple murders, right? Gruesome murders. But even then, even that person, it might be very dim and very faint. If you could talk to their soul, you would talk to a soul that is just as harmonious, just as loving, just as compassionate, just as eager to share as the masters themselves, because it's within the hearts of all of us. That's what Maitreya is saying is within the hearts of every one of us. So, but we're not animals. Now, if we could, there are people living in this world or walking around this world wearing business suits, some of them even, and they don't look like Tarzan. They look like people running companies and all sorts of stuff, and some of them are even famous, right? Where they're, if you could get into their thought processes, they don't think much higher than an animal would, right? I mean, they're really more, and Benjamin Creme's master referred to it as intelligent, it was one person as an intelligent animal, right? Where this person, their moment-to-moment routine, their moment-to-moment experience of life is not much more than what an animal would think, right? But they're human, right? They're still souls in incarnation, but it's just, they haven't gotten to that point yet. So, like I said, just the various degrees of manifestation of that divinity, right? We're all equal sons of God, right? Like you even talk about the equality of things, right? That's true, right? Now, to get to, it says, I think you said, so explain the Maitreya. Well, actually, that's not a title. That's his name, Tal, just for future reference. But so explain Maitreya and the ascended masters will transform all souls. They're not going to transform any souls. So when, and I'm not harping on you, but when you ask this question like this, or if somebody thinks this, because I'm talking about peace and justice, it seems far-fetched based on what we've seen in our own personal experience, right? Which is understandable. But that's not the end-all and be-all of life, right? So the reason why we have the divisions, the reason why we have the problems in the world and so forth and everything is because none of us are identifying truly as ourselves as souls. Now, Maitreya, when he's teaching humanity more directly, when these masters like the Master Jesus and the Master Kuthumi are speaking directly to people, teaching them, not only will they be teaching us the ageless wisdom teachings, this wisdom that, as Benjamin Creme put it one time, he said, the masters, you don't realize that the masters have the wisdom of the ages at the fingertips, how light it is for them to teach you this. It's not heavy. It's not this heavy sermon that they're going to be teaching. It's a very light, kind of simple wisdom with a lot of humor to it. Their humor in and of itself is a law. But there'll be a lot of times when you hear Maitreya speaking in public that he'll be speaking and it's quite funny. I mean, he's told me things before that I busted a gut laughing, right? But when I went back and looked at it, there was some truth to it, right? So there was a wisdom to it. But they will be speaking like that. So relaxed, so at one with everybody. Not confrontational at all the way that they present this information, but yet speaking to open up within you and me and everybody that will listen to them and hear them, open up their hearts to where their soul will start to manifest more and more. Now, it's not just the individual, it's globally, right? So they'll be teaching humanity through their disciples, the higher disciples in the political arena, in the economic arena, in the social fields, in the healthcare fields, and so forth, how to help us all together rebuild the structures to help support us being souls, right? So for instance, the economic crisis that's going on today is based on the energies of Pisces. Okay, now the energies of Pisces are divine, just like the energies of Aquarius are divine. So I don't mean to go off in a different direction, but I'm trying to answer this question. Is those energies were helping humanity to become more of an individual. Okay, so the thought of to be thyself, to think for thyself, to be the best and all that kind of stuff weren't ideas even in the minds of people 2,000 years ago. It took the energy of Pisces to bring that about. Now, humanity, because we're at a very low point on the rung of the ladder, we took it and twisted it and whoop, 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 and made it to where for instance, our belief is more important than somebody else. What I believe is truer than what you believe, even though we might be talking about the same thing. My life is more important than yours. I don't care what happens to you. If it's not happening to me directly, I don't care. To where I need to get more for myself, and all the stuff you talk about, all the greed, all this violence, all those things are all coming from us identifying totally, almost totally, or, to some degree with our personality. But that's coming from the energies of Pisces. And then we built the structures to help reinforce that. So all the economic structures, the political structures. So you got right and left politics, and the Republicans are more important than the Democrats, and those damn liberals, and this, that, and the other. That's all coming from the past. So all the people that are arguing back and forth on TV, those liberals this and that liberal that, and those right-wing this and those conservatives that, and that's all coming from the past. And then you got the rich people that just cannot wait to get billions when everyone else is suffering. The Jeff Bezos of the world, who just cannot wait to get more and more tens of billions of dollars, knowing that there are 40 million people out of work and they do not give a shit, right? And it's all about them. That's the world that we're living in, because it's all based on that. Okay, now, those people who are trying to support those structures politically, economically, even in the healthcare system, where the healthcare system, there was a guy that went to the hospital for the coronavirus and then gets out and he gets a bill for $1 million, right? That kind of thing, right? And then our, senators and House of Representative members have free health care for them and their families, but yet we have to pay $1 million if we get the coronavirus, right? And then we're being told not to work while they're still getting their money. Jeff Bezos and all those guys and all those donors to those parties, they're all got their billions, but yet we only got $1,200 and basically piss off. And then a lot of us are still out of work, right? And I can't pay my my bills. I can't pay this. And yeah, I get a little $600 here for an extra, for unemployment, but that's about to end next week or something like that, right? So then what, right? And so, you got all this stuff going on, right? Now, Maitreya, along with his group of masters, is going to inspire us to build a new set of structures based off of the fact that we are souls in incarnation. But it's not it's not a utopian kind of ideal. It's not an ideal. He's going to help us to build the structures to support that. It's going to start with the principle of sharing, where we have a country that has an excess of resources of whatever, and it's just sitting there doing nothing, or even worse, just rotting or going to waste. Well, why not give it freely to another country that might need it? That country might have a little excess or some excess of something to give back as payment, or give it to somebody else, right? And it's going to be a least lend thing. Now, it's not just going to be this willy-nilly kind of let the bygones be bygones kind of sharing. It's actually, they already have the infrastructure in place. It just needs to be, plugged in. But it will be an agency within the United Nations that one of these masters will help oversee to make sure it runs smoothly and efficiently, that only a master can do, where it will be going on all the time. Now, that process of sharing will start to bring about justice in the world. It might not look like, how would that do that? Well, when people start to realize that their needs are met, that, okay, it's okay, I got health care. If something happens to me, I get sick, I'll be okay, and that kind of stuff. And it will start to ease some of the tensions among the nations, to where the possibility of us destroying ourselves will start to kind of fall by the wayside. And then there'll be intra-country sharing. So a country like the United States that spends, they always, every time the topic of universal health care comes up, or even this stimulus check to help people who are unemployed out, right? They never have enough money for that. Oh, there's no way, right? Well, yeah, there is money there. We have plenty of money. They just printed $3 trillion overnight, right? So they got the money somewhere, right? Now, all they have to do is reprioritize how they spend their money. So you got the Democrats that are fighting for, for the piece of the pie. You got the Republicans fighting for the piece of the pie, and the people are left with nothing. And so there's not a single Republican president or Republican-controlled member of the judicial or the judicial branch, not the judicial branch, excuse me, the legislative branch, excuse me, that takes less money. They just spend it differently than the other one. So, for instance, I own a home, I have a family, right? Now imagine the tension that would cause if I just decided I wanted to spend half my money on bullets and guns that I'm never going to use, right? And my daughter's like, hey, can I get some food? Sorry, I can't spend it. Don't have the money. Well, you just bought a bunch of bullets. No, we need those just in case my neighbor comes and takes us over, right? So it's like, well, that's never going to happen. Nah, well, I need that. And then next month I do the same thing. And next month I do the same thing. Yeah, all you have to do is just maybe rather than spending 100% of your budget or 80% of your budget on military, maybe why not spend 20% of your budget on military? You still have a military to defend yourself, but maybe not quite as big and massive, right? So that's how things are going to change kind of intra-country wise, right? And then once people start to see that their health care is met, that they got clothes, and if something happens and they lose their job, well, shoot, you still got a place to stay. It's going to ease a lot of that tension, and it's going to ease a lot of the crime and a lot of the drug use and so forth. But the main impetus to this change is going to be the love that's emanating from Maitreya as people are hearing his words on the TV, or if they see him in public at, talking to groups of people and so forth. That's the X factor that I like to put it, that right now that most of us don't even know, most people don't even know that he's around, right? I mean, the people who are listening to this video, if you listen to more than one of these videos, you might not believe it, but you at least know that there's a possibility that he's out there, right? So if what I'm saying is true, and he is who I'm saying he is, he's going to be speaking directly to the hearts of humanity, to where that heart love nature opens up. And then we will start to identify more and more with ourselves as souls. And it will start to change, not overnight, but over a process of time, it will start to change the way that we relate with one another, which violence, drug use, domestic violence and all that kind of stuff will start to kind of fall by the wayside, because people will start to identify themselves more and more with souls. So it might not answer your question, Tao, but it's the best way I can answer it in this video. Now, alrighty. Flipping photos, you had a wonderful comment. You're very kind for saying what you said. I will say this, you mentioned something about your name. I still love that name. I think Flipping Photos is a cool name. And there was somebody else that put a comment up or a question the other day. It was Ferret Kung Fu. I was like, man, I can't think of a name like that. That's really cool. But Flipping Photos and Ferret Kung Fu are my two favorite names. So, not to take anything away from what you said, Zen, because I do like that name too. But anyway, Zen, you had a couple comments. One was about the YouTube video Awake about Paramahansa Yogananda. I have to check it out. I might have seen it. I saw one video about Paramahansa Yogananda. I'll have to check it out and see if it's the movie Awake that you're talking about. But anyway, I believe Maitreya has the ability to overshadow more than one human at a time, as well as doing his own thing himself. That is true. So people don't know this about Maitreya, but he did get Employee of the Month at the McDonald's in London several months in a row, because he can basically divide himself into 15 different people at the same time. I'm just kidding. That'd be kind of funny if that was true. Yes, Maitreya can be giving an interview on TV at this moment in time, at the same time overshadowing this person, that person, this person, but that person has to be at a certain level of consciousness. He can't just do it to anybody, right? And it's not Maitreya, it's the person, right? And then at the same time, he's communicating with this master on another planet and this, that, and the other. They are master multitaskers. Every one of these masters don't waste any time. And so he could be doing all that, sending, having a familiar talk to this person, giving them some of the little, the ageless wisdom teachings, giving them just a little bit of the consciousness that Maitreya is who he is, at the same time diverting us from some unforeseen cosmic event that could have killed us all had he not done something, in the master, all at the same time, and joking and laughing on TV. I mean, and believe me, when I don't know the consciousness of Maitreya. I'm not there yet, but we would be blown away by the spiritual giant if we really knew who he was. And this is any one of these masters, but like I said, eventually we'll all know what it's like. But they're detached, they're relaxed, they're loving humor and so forth. But they got an infinite number of things going on at the same time. Where you and I know for myself, I'll speak for myself. I sometimes can't juggle two oranges together. So sometimes I'll drop those on the floor if I try to juggle it. So anyway, but thank you guys for your comments. And some of you put some comments up there, and I really do appreciate it. So anyway, I do want to, and this kind of addresses kind of what you were talking about, Tao. It comes from one of the Master's articles. It's called A New Serenity. So hopefully this will answer your question a little bit better than me, because I know Benjamin Creme's Master is a lot wiser of a person than I am. But all right, here we go. A New Serenity. And it was published in March of 2004. And again, I always put this as a disclaimer. It is always best for you to read this yourself. Okay, for one, I always muck up the words. And two, it's always better for you to read the words, see the words, internalize it for yourself than just have somebody read it. So if you're starting to think that these articles that I read at the end of nearly every one of my videos are anywhere from extremely wise and enlightening to just mildly cool to listen to, you know what I'm saying? Definitely seek out his books on Amazon or go to the Share International website itself and try to buy some of these books, because you will start to see, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about in my last video, you'll start to really realize, and once you start to hear the ideas coming from a master, and then you start to really internalize it and see how simple the truth is, and see how scientific and detached it is, and it's not coming from this kind of mystical kind of woo-woo kind of thought, and speak, of it, that when you hear somebody else who, let's say, is saying they're channeling one of these masters, you'll be able to pick up on it right away and go, that's not coming from the masters, that's coming from your own head. It's, and your own emotions. It's like the difference between a Mozart piece and the wisdom and the beauty of that compared to just somebody just pounding the keys on the piano. You can't really compare the two, right? And so, anyway, hope it helps. All right. It will not be long before the world realizes that something quite extraordinary is taking place. Already, signs are appearing that many people are becoming aware of a new atmosphere, a new turn of thought, difficult to place or describe, which gives them hope and alleviates the stress of the recent past. Something intangible but strongly present is making itself felt on a wider scale. Those who know, of course, of the presence of Maitreya and his group have for long experienced this feeling of comfort and quiet joy, this confident assurance that all will be well no matter what the circumstances of the day. In growing numbers now, the sense of security and ultimate good amid the chaos and challenges of the present is strengthening. Slowly and surely, people are awakening to the presence of they know not what, but dimly sense that it is for the good and safety of all. Thus does the great Lord ease the pain of the present conditions and prepare the multitudes to respond to his words. Thus does he ensure their understanding of the priorities of the complex international situation which threatens the well-being of all. Many will be amazed by their unusual calm and objectivity in conditions of stress. Many more will wonder at their ready tolerance of long-standing opponents and rivals. Thus the great Lord works to mitigate the suffering of so many. In time, men will associate their newfound ease with the one who speaks so simply of trust, of sharing and peace. They will recognize that the simplicity belies a profound understanding of the human condition and the needs of all. So encouraged, they will follow his advocacy and raise their voices in response. Thus will the voice of the people grow in strength and purpose, and echoing around the world will call loudly to the leaders for sanity, justice, and peace. Then will the men of power begin to realize that their day is over, that the people understand and demand their God-given right to health and happiness, freedom and justice, trust and blessed peace. Thus will it be, and thus will the peoples of the earth call for the great Lord to speak directly to all, to cement their growing unity, and to indicate the steps to transformation of the world. Then will Maitreya reveal his true identity and nature. The day of declaration will be for humanity a new beginning, and will inspire from men as never before the best that is in them.
Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.